Hey folks, it's Brian. Actually, I don't look that bad. I just got done running, so I'm kind of sweaty, but I need to sit and relax, try to cool down a bit before I get my son up for school. So I figure if I'm going to sit and wait, I might do something productive. So here we go. The next section is on weapons. Oh, and by the way, my putting out the previous sections have been pretty quick because I've already been halfway through this thing, just reading it myself and going, I thought, I'd do some videos on this, put that out there. So that's what started me going. And now we're up to, well, in my reading, I'm up to Runes and Passions, which is fairly new for, the Runes is definitely new for me. Passions I'm familiar with, but so my reading will be slowing down, so my production outload will be fairly low as well. I also, for those watching my other playlists, have contacted my group and we pretty much decided we need to start playing. So it doesn't look like this weekend, but next weekend we'll be incorporating everybody else into my Princes of Apocalypse campaign. We'll get that playlist running again. So hopefully we'll see some progress there. Okay, weapons. Oh, this is pretty standard. And if you're familiar with Runequest, you're familiar with weapons and how it all works. Talk about melee weapons and miss weapons and different things. The categories of a weapon. Their skill base, minimum strength and dex, their damage, hit points, which I have to admit I prefer the Runequest 3 version or terminology of armor points, but whatever. Their encumbrance, their strike rank. Something new is the length. They've actually got the length of the weapon on there because there's some mechanics later on that involve length, specifically with phalanxes and stuff. So that's on there now, and then the type, whether it's a slashing weapon, a crushing weapon, a cut and thrust, or an impaling weapon, that kind of thing. Some new weapons, ones that I had not seen before. Thought were interesting. The dagger axe, which is essentially your halberd kind of thing for damage. It does 3d6, massive damage. And if you look at the pictures they've got, because Vichy Din in the quick start's got a dagger axe and looks like a very wide shaped dagger and an axe head. So, bam, it does some damage. Two-handed sickle sword for you lunars out there. A pole lasso. I'm assuming that's from Praxians. And then Arbalist. I couldn't remember if Arbalist was actually listed in Runequest 2 or not. I do believe it is listed in Runequest 3. We talk about how thrown weapons, their damage bonus is only half of your damage bonus. Talk about shooting at protected targets, the fact that if you hit that area that's already protected, it's a miss. Unless, of course, it's a critical, in which case you reroll for location. I've got background in the fantasy trip where you've got modifiers for everything, including people who are partially hit and that kind of thing. If you make the modifier so you have less chance to hit, then you're going to hit a piece of the body that's showing. That's the way I would handle it. I talk about moving targets. If someone's evading, which means they can only move at half their movement speed, you cut your skill in half. And if they're moving side to side, cut your movement in half, and those are additive. So if they're evading side to side as they're running, back and forth kind of thing, then it's hard to hit them. Good to go. And then shooting into melee. Excuse me. I've seen a couple of systems that can handle this a handful of different ways. The general consensus seems to be that in a melee, even though your figures, if you're tactical like me and you've got a grid and you've got minis and moving stuff around and doing that kind of thing, that the actual melee that you're trying to simulate is much more chaotic. And if you shoot into a group of people who are fighting, the person you're trying to shoot may inadvertently dodge because they're just all moving around, kind of an evade sort of thing. But you could shoot somebody else, and everybody's close by anyway, so there's a chance of that happening. Back in the day, we used to do line of sight. If you shoot, you miss, and if you miss, then anybody behind you has to dodge or get hit, and that kind of thing. So that's how we used to handle it. This way, if you're shooting a melee, your percentage is divided by the number of combatants in the melee. So if you got 4 guys in there and you got an 80% chance to hit, you got 20% chance to the guy you want to hit. That's off the bat. So if you make your 20%, you nailed him, no problems. But if you missed that 20%, 25, 40, whatever, but it's less than your normal percentage to hit, you're less than your 80, then you hit somebody and you roll randomly for who that is. So there's a chance of getting the guy you wanted initially anyway, but you have the opportunity of hitting another enemy or some of your friends, as happens, a random target. But here they talk about how the special and critical chances are based upon your now modified chance. So instead of having a crit of 4 for 80, now crit of 1 for 20. Double dipping again on the negative side, but not on the positive. I don't know. I just don't know. It'd actually be kind of fun to keep that crit. And even though you missed your guy, you critted somebody else, including possibly one of your partners. I think that's a good idea. I may scratch that rule, house rule number, whatever. Your special and crit is still based upon your normal modifier, even if you don't hit your own guy, the guy you wanted. I like that. Okay, now here's something new. Firing on a mass of targets. And this is something you could have used or could be used in the quick start, because there's this scene where one of the missing cattle is there and is being chomped on by 7 rock lizards. Now, I've generally got 2 engaged with it. As they're moving along, the bolt takes off, they get their free attacks and chase up after it, that kind of thing. And the others are just kind of trailing along behind. But they all get blocked together, just fire into the body of them. And if for a combat situation, if you got anybody in a phalanx, or just, a group of archers in one place, going to hit a specific one, just shoot at all of them kind of thing, which I really like that. Firing on mass targets. You get a plus 5% for every extra target. So if you're 75, there's 2 guys, and you're just shooting at them, you're at 8%. So that's interesting. I guess, I don't remember them specifically discussing here. Maybe just roll randomly for which one you hit, but that's the way things go. But this got me thinking. This is a problem that I have with Runequest, hit locations, and multi-hex creatures. My basic example for this is a dragon. You've got a 4-hex dragon or a 7-hex dragon, if they're on the ground. And you run up and you're attacking from a side hex. Could you hit the head? Yeah, because they can be moving the head around, maybe looking at you, maybe trying to bite you even. That's always possible. Tail, maybe, because they're doing a tail swash back and forth. But those don't come that far around. I've got a range of where my tail slashers get to go. And if it's like a 7-hex dragon, you're up by the front claw, you're either going to hit the body or the arm, possibly the leg, or the head. You're not going to hit the back leg. You're not going to hit the rear quarters. You hit the 4 quarters, which the body part you're at. So how do I deal with that? Luckily, when I create a scenario, I use a spreadsheet so that all my stats are randomized. And I can just build in a hit location chart for that creature for, a side or a rear hex or a front hex. So this is the basic. In Fantasy Trip, you've got a 1-hex creature, has 3 front hexes, 2 side hexes, and a rear hex, and there are modifiers for all that kind of stuff. So I visualize all creatures with that same sort of thing. If 3-hex creatures got like 4 or 5 front hexes, a couple side hexes, and a couple rear hexes, that kind of thing. So it all changes based upon how big the creature is. In Fantasy Trip, you get a bonus based upon how many hexes are available for the target. And this applies directly with this mechanic. For every extra target, every extra hex of creature, you get a +1. I like that. I'm going to use it. And again, your special and critical is based upon your unmodified number. That's 75, not the 80 or the 85 or 90 for having 2, 3, or 4 targets. Just that initial skill base. And I kind of make some sense there, but we'll see. Okay, well, then we get into armor, the last barrier between your body and the weapon. And they mentioned about, unlike weapons and shields used to parry with, armor isn't damaged for going over their armor points, because that's what it's designed to do. So you don't really need to worry about armor breaking down. Now you can have some standard rules. Wherever so many comments, you need to do repairs on it, stuff like that. That's downtime kind of stuff you can do. You don't need to worry about it during combat. Then they talk about armor and the standard armor chart. And it's not just like the one from Runequest 2, but very similar. You've got the area covered. They have the type of armor, that is the title is really what's the name. It's a hood, it's a hauberk, that kind of thing. The material, whether it's leather or or chain or scale or plate or whatever. Absorption, how much damage it absorbs, the encumbrance of that piece of armor, the cost, and then some armor types at some locations have a modifier for moving silently. Specifically, that scale stuff is noisy. Chain as well. On this chart, they have added hit locations, which is, kind of handy for, humans. But do you really need that? Everybody's got on their character sheet that an arm, 16 to 18, 15 to 12 or 11, no, 15 to 13, that kind of, it's already on the character sheet. They don't really need it on the armor chart, unless for some reason you understand that a Griever Vambrace, which covers the hit, the arm, covers these hit locations. I think it's just a waste of space. They have the standard materials, like I mentioned earlier, but there's some extra types. A turtle shell, and this is a culture kind of thing. It's designed for a specific cult who does a specific kind of cuirass made of turtle shells and other stuff. And they have what they call disc plate, which is, if you watch the Glorantha comic online, the Red Goddess hero, I forgot her name, but she's in there, and she's wearing this kind of stuff. It's made of a specific discs and plates, but it's kind of open, or you got chain on the side and that kind of thing. Just, another name. They actually have quilted, which they didn't have before. Well, in Runequest 2, Runequest 3 it did. They've got segmented plate, which is new. I like that. And they've added studded leather, and there could be a whole discussion about what studded leather really means. Then we get to shields. They have actually a list of shield types. You got hide shields, wicker shields, and wood shields, and they break them up by size, small, medium, and large. And the only difference between all of them is cost. Really. That's the only difference, cost. I can put a spear through a wicker shield much more easily than I can a wood one. And possibly even a hide. Because generally you don't just have a straight hide, or you'll have multiple layers of hide. It's more like a lamination of hides. But I've seen wicker shields, and they're just wicker. Now, if you've got an edge on that, you might be able to block some sword blows very decently. And it probably could absorb arrows fairly well. But if you're thrusting through with a spear, you got your body weight behind it, you're going to go right through it. So I'm going to go with the standard of wood shields, covered with, cloth or leather, kind of thing for binding it all together and having decoration and stuff. I'm not going to worry about this whole cost deal. And they have a notes section after shields. Again, about how if your damage goes over the hit points of the shield, damage now goes to the location you originally rolled for when you hit. When I was doing the quick start, we had a number of guys who would roll all their dice at once. They pulled percentile out. Did I hit or not? I hit. Okay, here's the location. It's this number, and here's the damage. It's fun rolling lots of dice anyway, so I have no problem with that. And if anything else, I would always roll to hit and location at the same time, just because I like doing that. Oh, I missed. Oh, I hit. It's area location 12, that kind of thing. So I have no problem with that. So I'd always have an original location. Sometimes people roll for hit, and then they'll roll for location. We didn't have a generally roll for hit, roll for parry, and if you hit, then you roll location kind of thing. So it's one of those things. But now you don't need to roll location until you have to overcome the shield. So it's kind of iffy. But then if we roll back to the beginning, where they're discussing parrying, and if you get through the shield, it goes to the nearest location, which is your arm. Now, if you nail somebody in the shield, you're going to hurt their arm. Yeah, generally, I get that. But if you're punch blocking, that's going to be a little different. It's just the style of shield blocking rather than using the face. I've seen that in the SCA with round shields versus heaters. Heaters is just kind of a defensive block kind of thing, whereas with the round shields, you're actually actively punching the sword blow coming in so it doesn't hit you. Just styles. But I would go back. I would use this rule. Roll the original location. If you get by the shield, you hit it. Because there are ways that you can partial block a shield and come around and still hit. Yeah, it happens. Okay, then they get into missile weapons. And they talk about, you can parry a thrown weapon if you can see and know that the guy who's attacking you is throwing a, if somebody's throwing an axe at you and you can see them and you know they're throwing an axe at you, you can pair it with your shield. You can block it. Projectile missile weapons, bows and crossbows, that kind of thing, cannot be parried with a shield. But they can provide you with coverage. They have a little coverage chart. If you got a small shield, it's your arm, automatically covered. If it was a medium shield, it's your arm plus one location that's associated with your arm, next to the 16 to 18 or whatever it is. It's a large location, it's your arm plus two contiguous locations. They had a chart like that in Runequest 2, if I remember right, and I didn't quite get what that was about because I don't remember there being any purpose associated with it. The concept's decent. The only issue I have with that is, what do you do if you see arrows coming in and you duck? You squat down, cover your whole body with your shield. Vikings did it all the time. Got a huge round shield, you're stuck down. I don't know. Something to discuss. Then they get into mounted combat, and I'll go through this fairly light. The rules for this stuff is fairly detailed, but I don't want to spend that much time on it. Mounted combat is designed for the lance and for archery. If your mount is not a cavalry trained mount, you have to roll to control it every round, and you cannot maintain any active spells. Good to go on that. If you have a trained mount, that mount can and will fight on its own. You don't need to direct it, and you don't need to worry about it. You can continue to fight from the saddle. There are special hit locations. If you're mounted attacking a guy on the ground, you're only going to hit from the head down, so you do a D10 plus 10 for your location. But if you're attacking mounted to mounted, it's normal. You could argue that if you're fighting side to side, that you can't hit the offside. And since with my hit locations, I differentiate sides by odd even because I have the upper and lower arm and upper and lower leg using the same numbers, that's easy to do. They're all that arm. Don't worry about the other side. And then discuss setting a pike versus a charge. There's a whole lot of things like that. You don't get your manipulation skill modifier to your attack. You cannot parry or dodge. If you're using Blade Sharp, you only get the damage bonus. You don't get the hit bonus. I quite grafted on that because we're talking magic. When you set your pike versus a charge, and the pike hits the charging character takes that mount's damage bonus. Good to go. No issues there. It's just writing down mechanics what is obvious. Pike attacks always attack on strike rank 1. Set pikes against a charge always attack on strike rank 1. And if you're in a phalanx, you've got rows. So you do the first row first, and second, third, fourth, as many as it goes. And in Greece, they had 8 ranks deep. If your planted pike versus a charge attack fumbles, everybody behind you cannot do anything. All their attacks are canceled. You get in the way, that kind of thing. And they have their own special pike versus charge attack hit location because you're talking about the animal and the rider, that kind of thing. No real issues there. And they got some new stuff. Chariots and phalanxes. They talk about a chariot. A chariot has a movement speed of -1 for what the pair of animals pulling it is. So if it's a horse, which is 24 in almost all the animals, at least in the quick starter, they're all, well, actually they're 12. Yeah, you're 8, they're 12, so it'd be 11 because they're pulling this chariot kind of thing. And the chariot itself acts as a protection, like a shield. So you have to do damage over the damage value of the chariot before you do damage to the occupants. And that's kind of interesting. I like that mechanic. And then there's a special little box chart where they talk about the Gloranthan, or the Praxian maybe. The Gloranthan chariot, what is damage, armor points or hit points, whatever it is, that kind of thing. And they talk about controlling chariots, making those rolls. Talk about dragging a character and how much damage they take. And talk about trampling and how much damage they take if they trample somebody. On the phalanx, discuss some mechanics on that. We discussed some of that earlier about setting versus a charge. But if you're in a phalanx, you get extra protection against knockbacks. But you're limited to the number of people who can attack you. I'm a little iffy on that. haven't been in a shield wall before, yeah, you're blocking you, but you're trying to block the guy next to you too, and everybody shields up, and you're not even watching this guy because this guy over here can spear you in the side of the head. So I still use my facing thing. Now maybe if you have two people together, you got 3 between the 2 of you. You still have double attack, so I'm not sure about limiting the number of attackers on that. You know, whoever's in front, and it's all mechanics for tactical stuff. There's extra defense in the formation, and again, the attacking in depth. You got so many ranks of people, they're all spearing forward, right? Moving into phalanx is slow, though. You only have a movement rate of 1. Left, right, left, right. But if your leader makes a battle roll, you can move it too. Then it gets into other combat rules. Things like attacking a defenseless character or someone who's unaware, attacking while you are prone, attacking a helpless character, i.e. you kill them in 1 round, attacking in darkness, grappling, how the knockback works, and 2-weapon use. And there's a bunch of stuff that has 2-weapon use about 1 attack, 1 parry, or 2 attacks, or 2 parries, and that kind of stuff. And they have a note section at the end. Things to remember. Things I would tell every player before we started. Prepare before you fight. We're generally talking about magic. Missiles are deadly. Armor can save your life. Magic, especially rune magic, is a game changer. And always be willing to flee. Because combat and Runequest can be debilitating and deadly. That's it for today. The next one will be runes. I did finish reading that one, so hopefully I'll be able to get that out tonight. Maybe tomorrow morning. I don't know. And again, there's a Vasana saga. We'll talk about that too. Cool stuff. Ciao.